You know that feeling when you've like just poured your absolute soul into a project?
Oh, yeah, completely.
Like you've stayed late at the office, you've skipped your lunches, sacrificed your weekends. You basically bleed into the work.
Right.
And you do it because there's this universal unwritten rule that we're all taught from childhood, that the world directly and reliably rewards hard work.
That is a clean one-to-one transaction.
Exactly. You put your head down, you grind it out, and eventually the universe just hands you your prize. But when you look at the reality of your own career or, the people around you who are just completely burning out, that transaction starts to look like a massive illusion.
It is an illusion.
Yeah.
And honestly, clinging to it is kind of the primary architecture of modern burnout.
Wow. Yeah.
Because the raw, unfiltered reality is that the world doesn't actually reward the sweat itself. It doesn't pay you a premium just for being tired,
Yeah.
or for enduring misery.
Right. Nobody cares how little sleep you got.
Exactly. And following that thread, it forces this complete paradigm shift in how we evaluate our own efforts. Naval Ravikant articulated this perfectly. He said, you get rewarded for unique knowledge, not for effort.
That concept just completely stops you in your tracks.
It does, because effort is merely the prerequisite required to create that unique knowledge.
Right. At first glance, it feels almost dismissive of the grind we all go through. But the way I'm picturing it, it's like raw effort is basically just the cover charge.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like it's the price of admission just to get into the building. But just because you paid $20 at the door doesn't mean you're suddenly the VIP of the club.
No, you're just inside.
Right. You still have to do something meaningful or build a connection or offer some unique value once you're in there.
That cover charge analogy isolates the exact friction point perfectly, because people pay the emotional and physical cover charge of hard work,
Yeah.
right? And then they just stand around in the club waiting for someone to hand them a trophy.
Yeah, like, where's my prize?
Exactly. But if we follow Ravikant's logic, we have to reconsider literally everything about our daily routines. If the sheer volume of our exertion isn't the metric of success, well, we have to aggressively audit what we're enduring.
Right.
We have to look at what specific data we're paying attention to and ultimately who we are enduring all of this for. It moves the goalpost from just working hard to working with this extreme observant intention.
So if the sweat itself doesn't buy the reward, what is the actual mechanism? Like, how does that raw effort translate into this elusive, unique knowledge?
Well, to understand that, we have to look at the concept of accumulating scar tissue.
Scar tissue.
Yeah, and there's honestly no better theater for this than professional sports. Take the 2021 Masters tournament.
Oh, man. Yeah.
You have a golfer named Xander Schauffele.
Huh.
Now, he has paid the cover charge his entire life. He has the monumental effort down.
Right. He already had, 6 top 5 finishes at major championships at that point?
Exactly. He's standing on the 16th hole on Sunday, well within striking distance of the iconic green jacket. And he hits his ball straight into the water.
Triple bogey. Brutal.
Just a complete collapse. The tournament slips completely out of his hands, and Hideki Matsuyama walks away with the win. The universe absolutely did not reward Schauffele's effort that afternoon.
No, it did not. And, here's where it gets really interesting for our deep dive today. Because the immediate assumption is that a collapse of that magnitude on a global stage, no less, would just shatter a competitor's psyche.
You think so? But Schauffele's post-tournament analysis is so revealing. It shows the exact mechanism of acquiring unique knowledge.
Right.
He remarked that, you could view his career as a big ball of scar tissue with a bunch of second places. But he actively chose not to look at it that way.
He said he fully committed to the shot, right?
Yes, he said he fully committed, the execution simply failed, and he was going to sleep perfectly fine knowing that he committed.
Okay, so I pushed back hard when I first heard that. Because to me, doesn't that just sound like a really highly sanitized, PR-friendly coping mechanism?
Oh, it completely sounds like spin.
Right, like it's exactly what an athlete's media trainer tells them to say to spin a massive choke on the 16th hole so they don't look broken.
It is incredibly tempting to dismiss it as corporate spin.
Whoa.
But if you look under the hood, Schauffele is actually executing a masterclass in applied stoicism.
Really? How so?
Well, the philosopher Epictetus taught that the trials and humiliations you face, they aren't punishments. They are strictly diagnostic tools. They introduce you to your own strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Schauffele basically separated the action, which he entirely controlled, from the outcome, which was subject to wind, adrenaline, physics, whatever. He understood that panicking dumps cortisol into the brain.
Right, which creates like a literal trauma response to failure.
Exactly. By cleanly owning his commitment to the shot, he was actively rewiring his neural pathways. He was teaching his brain how to survive extreme pressure without treating a bad outcome as a fatal threat.
So the failure itself becomes the textbook.
Yes.
Taking the action with full commitment is the win, regardless of whether the ball lands in the water or not.
That is the core mechanism, and there's an ancient philosophical lineage to this. It appears in texts like Romans 5.34, which outlines this progression, suffering building endurance, endurance building character, character building hope.
Right, so he wasn't out there blindly accumulating trophies.
No, he was purposefully accumulating highly specific tempered psychological data. He was learning the exact physiological sensation of performing under crushing pressure. The scar tissue wasn't damage. The scar tissue was the unique knowledge.
And the return on investment for that specific scar tissue was staggering.
Unbelievable.
Because just a few months after that catastrophic moment at the Masters, he's at the Tokyo Olympics. He's on the 18th fairway, he holds a one-shot lead, and the gold medal is entirely on the line, and he hits the absolute shot of his life.
Lands it within 3 feet of the pin.
Yeah, and wins the gold. The unique knowledge he forged in that crucible of the Masters was deployed when the stakes were highest.
Exactly.
Which, honestly, think about your own professional near misses for a second, right? The promotions you were passed over for, the startup that didn't get funding, the creative project that just flatlined.
Yeah.
Are you letting those moments harden into bitterness, or are you actively processing them as the necessary scar tissue required to build your own unique knowledge?
That cognitive reframe is absolutely vital for professional survival. But it introduces a profoundly dangerous secondary problem.
It is.
Well, we can become so singularly obsessed with building this professional scar tissue and mastering our craft that we fall into an ambition trap. We develop this hypervigilance for our careers while becoming completely blind and numb to everything else functioning around us.
The ambition trap. This is where the whole equation of effort and reward gets violently flipped.
Oh, completely.
Let's look at David Letterman. For 3 decades, this man is arguably one of the most powerful, recognizable figures in American entertainment.
Wielding immense cultural influence.
Immense. And he's making something in the neighborhood of $30 million a year. And he makes the decision to retire.
Just walks away.
Walks away. He goes home, sits down with his young son, Harry, and delivers this heavy, life-altering news. He says, I'm quitting. I won't be going to the studio every day. Our entire lives are about to change.
And Harry's reaction is just incredible.
It's the best. Harry looks at him, processes this massive shift, and asks a single question. Will I still be able to watch the Cartoon Network?
It is such a hilarious deflation of an ego-driven moment.
Yeah.
But it exposes the foundational disconnect between adult ambition and human connection. The actor Ben Stiller summarized this dynamic perfectly once.
What did he say?
He noted that children are not keeping a running scorecard of your career trajectory.
Right.
They do not care about your IMDb page or your quarterly earnings. They fundamentally just want a parent who is emotionally present, highly observant, and supportive of them in the room.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where the effort illusion hits closest to home. We justify all those skip lunches and missed bedtimes by telling ourselves a story.
Yes, it's all for the family story.
Exactly. We say we're out there breaking our backs, hauling stones to build this massive, impenetrable castle for our kids to live in. And we become so exhausted by the construction of the castle that we completely miss the reality that our kids don't give a damn about the castle.
They really don't.
They just want us to sit in the dirt and play in the sandbox with them.
The sandbox analogy highlights the exact cognitive dissonance of the driven professional perfectly, because we overcomplicate the metric of love.
We really do.
If you analyze the baseline needs of a child, they are embarrassingly modest. They want snacks. They want someone to run through the yard with them when the sprinklers are on. They want, a cheap, shiny magnet from the airport when you travel.
And most importantly, they want a parent who isn't vibrating with ambient stress and yelling.
Exactly. That constitutes a beautiful life for them. As the legendary basketball coach George Raveling pointed out regarding young people, what they're starving for is simply love and genuine recognition. They want to be seen.
Right.
They're not waiting for your next promotion. They're waiting for you to look up from your phone.
But surely this isn't like an argument for abandoning ambition altogether, right? because we still have to pay the mortgage. The castle does provide actual shelter.
Right, of course.
So it seems less about killing ambition and more about diagnosing what the ambition is actually serving.
Friction lies in the misallocation of resources. The real tragedy is the individual who sacrifices a decade of their physical and emotional energy to gain elite, unique knowledge in their professional sector, only to wake up and realize they possess zero unique knowledge of their own children.
Oof. Yeah.
They don't know their kids' fears, their shifting interests, or their actual personality. The reward was successfully extracted from the work, but the life itself was entirely missed.
So we're staring at this massive tension. We want to be high performers. We want to execute under pressure like Schoffel, but we also desperately need to maintain that emotional presence Letterman discovered.
Yes.
What is the actual mechanism that governs both of these domains? Like, how do we build mastery at work without abandoning the sandbox at home?
Well, the answer isn't time management or color-coded calendar blocks.
No.
No, the mechanism is attention. It is the ruthless filtering of noise.
Attention.
Okay,
Because you can't build a deep understanding of anything without it. Right?
exactly. Attention is the ultimate currency. You cannot build a deep structural understanding of anything, whether that's the mechanics of a golf swing, the subtle emotional shifts in your spouse, or just the quietest parts of your own mind, without first pointing your unfragmented consciousness toward it. And doing that requires you to aggressively defend the gates of your mind against irrelevant data.
There is this incredible story from the Jesuit priest and psychotherapist Anthony de Mello that perfectly illustrates guarding that gate.
I love this one.
It's so good. A disciple comes sprinting up to his master, completely breathless and practically vibrating with excitement because he has some juicy, scandalous rumor he heard down in the marketplace.
Right.
But before he can spill it, the master stops him and applies this rigid three-question filter. He asks the disciple, is the information true? Is it useful? Is it funny?
And faced with that strict criteria, the disciple is just forced to deflate. He admits that, well, the rumor is not factually true, it has absolutely no practical utility, and it isn't even humorous.
And then the master delivers the final blow.
Right, he says, then why should we be hearing it?
I think about that filter all the time. Honestly, if we applied the true, useful, or funny test to the modern internet, the entire digital economy would collapse by Tuesday.
Oh, instantly.
My social media feeds would be a barren wasteland. But it exposes this deeply uncomfortable reality about how we spend our cognitive energy. Every single distraction we indulge, every outrage bait article we click, is attention that could have been pointed toward something generative.
Yes.
I have to wonder, is this fractured, scattered effort the literal biological reason we all feel so perpetually burnt out, even when we haven't done any physical labor?
The neurobiology supports that entirely.
Really?
Yeah, every time you shift your attention to process a new piece of irrelevant noise, your brain burns glucose to make a micro-decision.
Wow.
If we connect this to the broader picture of performance, we can look at Tony Dungy's daily challenge. Dungy references the concept of having clear, singular vision, drawing from Matthew 6.22.
Okay.
He conceptualizes it by describing a basketball player stepping up to the free throw line. The mechanics of the shot are ingrained, but they miss. Why? Because their visual cortex gets hijacked by a fan waving a balloon behind the backboard.
Ah, I see.
Dungy asks us to consider how frequently we miss our own crucial shots in life because we allow our vision to be fractured by the metaphorical waving balloons of trivial emails, gossip, and just manufactured urgency.
It's a mechanical failure caused by a visual distraction that completely reframes the legendary quote from Gino Auriemma, the UConn women's basketball coach.
Oh, so...
Well, he famously observed that the big difference between a really good player and a great player is that great players don't get tired.
Right.
And for years, I assumed he was talking about cardiovascular conditioning. Like, I thought he meant their lungs processed oxygen more efficiently. But he's not talking about physiology at all, is he?
Not at all. He's talking about cognitive endurance.
Cognitive endurance.
Mental fatigue almost always precedes physical fatigue. A merely good player is constantly processing the noise. You know, the referees, the crowd, their own mistakes, the score.
That constant context switching.
Exactly. It exhausts the central nervous system. A truly great player filters out the noise completely and exists only in the execution of the next play. Effort, directed by clear, unbroken vision, builds mastery. Effort scattered across 1,000 different noisy inputs simply manufactures deep systemic fatigue.
So what does this all mean for how we actually operate? Because when we talk about filtering out noise, letting go of outcomes, and just being present in the moment, it can sound incredibly passive.
It does sound that way to a lot of people.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just floating down a river on an inner tube, resigning yourself to whatever the universe hands you. How does a high achiever reconcile being present with actually getting things done?
That is the most common misconception about presence. If you examine the lives of the philosophers who champion this, you see that being present is a highly aggressive, active choice.
Aggressive.
Yes, it requires immense cognitive force. The Stoics were not sitting around meditating under trees all day. Marcus Aurelius was actively governing the entire Roman Empire. He was managing plagues, wars, and betrayals, all while writing his philosophy in a military tent.
And Epictetus too, right?
Exactly. He was born into slavery, endured physical torture, and yet actively constructed a philosophical framework that shaped Western civilization. They were not preaching a withdrawal from reality. They were demanding a fierce, unflinching engagement with exactly what was in front of them.
In Aurelius's Meditations, specifically passage 2.14, he makes this radical claim. He writes that no one loses any life other than the one they are currently living, because the present moment is literally the only thing anyone actually possesses.
That's so profound.
It really is. It's not a poetic metaphor. It's a cold, hard fact about where value lives. Your life doesn't exist in the promotion you might get in 3 years, and it doesn't exist in the mistake you made last week. It only exists right now.
The philosopher Seneca reinforced this constantly, too. He warned that putting things off is the greatest waste of life.
Because it snatches away the present by promising the future.
Precisely. When you procrastinate your presence, when you tell yourself you'll play with your kids after this project launches, or you'll finally enjoy your life after you hit a certain revenue goal, you are willingly stealing joy from your actual present reality in exchange for a hypothetical future that the universe has absolutely no obligation to deliver.
The poet Philip Larkin captured that urgency so well in his poem, The Trees. He observes the trees coming into leaf and realizes that spring isn't some distant promise. It's happening violently right now, demanding that we begin afresh, afresh, afresh.
I love that.
Or, to borrow from a slightly different cultural touchstone, the cartoonist Bill Keane put it flawlessly. Yesterday's the past, tomorrow's the future, but today is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
We nod along to those quotes, yet our daily habits prove we constantly choose tomorrow over today. We treat the present moment as a waiting room for the future.
To break out of that waiting room, we need a functional framework. And this isn't just a modern productivity crisis, it's an ancient human struggle. If you strip away the theological baggage and look at the Ten Commandments, they essentially function as an early cognitive operating system for human attention.
Yes.
They're rules for reducing mental load.
Approaching the text from Exodus as a framework for focus is incredibly illuminating. Do not worship false gods translates directly into the modern trap of worshiping career metrics, algorithms, and social status.
Right, because when you make a metric the meaning of your life, you fragment your attention.
Exactly.
And do not bear false witness is practically the ancient blueprint for Anthony DeMello's filter. Don't traffic in rumors, don't spread noise, and don't consume data that isn't true or useful.
Precisely. And the prohibition against coveting, do not covet, is perhaps the most vital tool for mental stamina.
Because it's a distraction.
It's the ultimate energy leak. It is the act of grasping after outcomes you cannot control or agonizing over what someone else possesses. It's the mental trap of obsessing over the green jacket Chauffeur lost or the prestige Letterman realized he no longer needed.
Wow.
The commandments, stripped to their behavioral core, are really just a description of a well-ordered mind that refuses to be distracted by ghosts.
And doing the work to maintain that well-ordered mind shouldn't feel like a punishment. Epictetus noted that while other people found joy in improving their farms or their horses, he delighted in observing his own daily improvement.
Yes.
Self-knowledge isn't a heavy burden you have to carry. When you are actually learning how to be fully, vibrantly alive in the present moment, the friction between effort and reward dissolves. The work itself becomes the reward.
Which naturally brings us to the ultimate conclusion of all this striving. If you live a life with this kind of fierce, focused effort, how does it end?
Right, what's the outcome?
The final days of these thinkers provide the ultimate perspective. Marcus Aurelius died on March 17, 180 AD, and the story goes that his final recorded words spoken to the captain of his guard were simply, "Go to the rising sun, for I am setting."
It's a breathtakingly graceful exit for a man who held absolute power.
It really is.
He understood that the grand project of a human life isn't what you manage to hoard. It's not the wealth, the titles, or the accolades. As Thomas Paine so sharply distinguished, it is about your character, not your reputation.
Right.
Reputation is what people think of you. Character is who you actually became in the dark while you were doing the work.
It is the ultimate validation of the journey over the destination. The poet Alfred Lord Tennyson captured the very essence of this active, unyielding presence in his poem Ulysses.
Ah,
He writes of the human spirit's strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. And the brilliance of that line is in its omission.
he doesn't say to win.
No, he does not say to conquer or to win. The nobility, the value, and the unique knowledge are entirely contained within the striving itself.
If we pull all these threads together, the architecture of a meaningful life comes into sharp focus. You are rewarded for unique knowledge, but that knowledge is only forged in the fire of showing up honestly, enduring the failures, and pointing your undivided attention at what truly matters in the present moment.
Beautifully said.
Whether that means committing to the deep, complex work of your craft, or sitting in the dirt to answer a child's question about a cartoon, or taking a swing knowing full well the ball might end up in the water. The life is in the effort.
The outcomes will always be chaotic and unpredictable, but the quality of your attention is entirely within your control.
We spent a lot of time today dissecting mechanics, outcomes, and ancient frameworks. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a completely different, highly immediate way to measure your day.
Okay.
The motivational speaker Les Brown once observed that all you can do is all you can do, but all you can do is enough.
Powerful.
Combine that with a challenge from the philosopher Yogi Desai, who suggested doing everything with so much love in your heart that you would never want to do it any other way.
That combination just strips away every excuse for bitterness or distraction, doesn't it?
It really does. So here is your challenge for the next 24 hours. Think about the most tedious, exhausting, frustrating task sitting on your desk right now. The one you are actively dreading.
We all have one.
What if you approached that exact mundane task with such an aggressive amount of love and hyper-focused attention that you wouldn't want to do it any other way?
Right.
What if executing that effort with a completely full and present heart is the only reward you are going to get today? And what if, just as Les Brown said, that is entirely enough?
It changes everything.
The sweat and the grind might just be the cover charge, but the attention you bring to the room, that is the actual party. Keep your vision clear, guard your attention fiercely, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.